week after it expressed its reservations on electoral bonds, the government has defended the scheme. In an affidavit filed in the top court by the Finance Ministry, it has said that bonds were an attempt to bring greater transparency into the system. The affidavit also said that bonds leave an audit trail in comparison to cash donations. The government further dismissed EC's concerns that foreign companies will be able to influence elections, claiming that there was no legal or factual merit to this argument. The affidavit also added that the electoral bond scheme is a pioneering step in bringing electoral reforms to ensure the spirit of transparency and accountability in political funding. Let me go across to Ayushman Kumar, who joins us with more information on the response that the government has now given to the Election Commission. Ayushman, coming across to you, I want to know that there were serious issues that were raised by organizations like the ADR, which of course, in fact, raised the point about transparency and fact that there is no way to find out who the entities are who would contribute the big amounts. Now, here is the government now actually countering each of those points. Can you take us through those issues and those points that have been made by the government of India?
Well, Afrida, if you see the government's response on electoral bonds, it remains quite about the expected, it remains on the expected lines. The government has defended this decision. Both Election Commission and the ADR have said that electoral bonds are anything but for the transparency of the funding in the democracy and the elections. Remember, one can contribute, they can give the data to the banks, but no one knows as to who has contributed, barring the banks. Yes. The banks give this data to the RBI, which ultimately goes to the Finance Ministry. And that is what the ADR has raised objection to, because the party in power knows they have the access to the data who has contributed. And that is why ADR has said that you can see the trail. Almost 90 to 95% of the contribution made through the electoral bond goes to the party in power. That has happened of lately. And this is why the Election Commission, when they submitted the affidavit in the Supreme Court, they said that they felt that it was a retrogressive step, and that is why it was not necessary. It was not bringing any kind of transparency. Yesterday, the affidavit filed by the Finance Ministry clearly rebuked the claims made by Election Commission, and they said that the bonds were an attempt to bring a greater transparency. They said that bonds leave an audit trail in comparison to the cash donations, and they further dismissed the concerns that the foreign companies will be able to influence the elections. But ultimately, if you see, the nodal body, the poll body of the country says that the electoral bonds are a retrogressive step, and they won't be bringing the transparency in the polling and the democracy in India. Frida.
So clearly, there is a contrarian position taken by the Election Commission and the government of India, because one of the arguments is that it will open the floodgates for unlimited corporate donations. And like you said, only the Finance Ministry will have access to information about the donors, and that level of transparency is simply not enough. Thanks very much for joining us, Ayushman.